Well, welcome. Tonight we have one of our most fun shows of the year when Miss Lydia brings wonderful children and the spirit of what Milford's all about. We're going to talk with a group, a bunch of French students who come to experience Milford and then take our children over to France to experience France. So your challenge tonight for our loyal viewers is, can you pick out the Milford kids from the French kids? And the beautiful part is they all seem to meld so well together. It's going to be a challenge. But let's start with an introduction.
Hi there. So I'm the French teacher at Milford High School, and this year we have two teachers with us. We have Ms. Monahan and Mr. Ferroni with us, and we have 15 French kids. Not all of them are here today from a school in Dunkirk in the north of France.
Circa, introduction?
Well, good evening. It's a real pleasure to be here. An important part of studying any language is to examine also the cultural aspect. So in that respect, we are grateful and thankful to be here. And we have had a very warm welcome, and it's been wonderful.
Monsieur Pascal, s'il vous plaît.
Okay. Well, good evening. Well, I'm the co-responsible with Circa of this trip, and I'm very happy to bring my 14 students to the United States, to Milford, and it is a pleasure to be with our American friends, and we hope to develop, well, our exchanges in the next few years.
Wonderful. Why don't we start with introductions of the students?
I'm Rachel Wang. I am a sophomore at Milford High School.
I'm Mariana Cremo, and I am also a sophomore.
Wait, I'm a junior.
Sorry, you've been demoted. You get to stay one extra year.
My name's Aaliyah Copeland, and I'm a senior at Milford High School.
And going where next year?
Holy Cross.
All right.
I'm Giovanna Paterno, and I'm a sophomore at Milford High School. I'm Jocelyn Canales, and I'm also a sophomore at Milford High School.
I'm Alyssa Lee, and I'm also a sophomore at Milford High School.
My name is Eric Barris, and I'm a junior at Milford High School.
My name is Haley Moore, and I'm a junior at Milford High School.
My name is Cassian, and I'm a French student.
My name is Gaspar, and I'm a French student too.
My name is Pauline, I'm a French student.
My name is Marlo, and I'm from France too.
I'm Tony Carré, and I'm from France. I'm Arthur Saru, and I'm from France too.
And I'm Grégoire Paulin, and I'm from France too.
Why do you do this program?
Just to see the reactions with the kids, to see it through their eyes is pretty amazing. It's you get to see them become like a family.
It always amazed me because you're taking kids from our center of the universe, Milford, and my understanding is the idea is the Frenchies come over here, and then the Milford kids go over there and experience France.
Yep. This year we did it reverse. So we went in February, and so now they're coming back to visit us.
Great. And we have an anomaly, an Irish woman who lives in France.
I've been living in France for the better part of 7 years now. And if I had my way, I would stay. I have no intention of leaving. I'm very happy where I am.
Why this program, Circa?
Well, I know from my own experience that doing exchanges as a teenager, you get to experience the parts that you don't learn in the classroom. The little idiosyncrasies that you find living in somebody else's family. It can be from something as simple as a different keyboard on the computer, to driving on the other side of the road, to different food and flavors, and it's just eye-opening.
And the crazy house you're staying in has many idiosyncrasies.
More than a few.
Pascal, pourquoi le programme?
Pourquoi le programme? Oh, very good question. Well, first, I love America. I've been teaching English for years and years, and myself, I was a student in the United States in the 1980 in Oklahoma, and I enjoyed the year I spent as a student, and it was my pleasure to share with my current students the same experience as they can. Of course, it is a very short stay we have right now, but I hope it will come true, maybe not next year, but within 2 or 3 years for them to come to Massachusetts, why not to Boston or another place in New England to study and spend 1 year or 2 years, because it is very rewarding for French students to speak fluent English. And in France now it is very, very important to speak English. We have understood at last that speaking languages was very, very important, and English is something quite unavoidable nowadays.
Rachel, why did you sign up?
Ever since I was young, I've always been fascinated with France. I've been in love with the language since I started learning it 5 years ago, I believe. I love the culture. I've heard great things about the people, and I wanted to experience it firsthand.
I mean, I could take like a lot of the same things that she said. Again, like the culture, you know, I am one to like really enjoy like going around, you know, and experiencing like different cultures and having different experiences in general, you know. And also, I mean, like, I think for Americans at least, and I think that the French could think like vice versa of like our thoughts, that you know, like Europe and especially like France, at least one for me, is like a dream for us to have to go like out of the country to and have like, you know, like I said, like different cultures and experiences.
Well, for me, I've always wanted to travel ever since I was little, and when I went to France, it was the first time I'd ever left the United States. So it was kind of what I hope is the beginning of a like long career of world travel. And I also love the language. I've been taking French since 7th grade, and I just love it so much.
You know, the problem I had when I was, back then it was Stacy and Anne-Marie Longo, and how she remembered 30 years later. When I was leaving 8th grade, I said, I don't know why I'm studying French. I will never use French. Why do I need it? When I came back to Milford, somehow she remembered and looked at me and said, oh, where were we living the last 4 years? Paris. She goes, and did you speak any French? It's like, yes, I was wrong.
For me, I think it's a lot about the people and like the differences and just getting those connections that are like, you know, past the boundaries of your own country, and just realizing that like we're a lot more the same. And I remember when we were in France, I think we were at one of the Frenchies' houses, and we were just like playing video games. I think Aaliyah was there, Rachel was there, and we were just talking, and I kind of forgot I was even in France. It was just like, oh, we're just all teenagers, we're just all having fun and hanging out. And I think, you know, even just having them come here, it's really opened my mind about Milford and helped me see like how it is through their eyes, and just kind of seeing the beauty in the world. I think that that's really why it's so important to me, I guess.
I remember when we were in Paris, there were 4 channels. You know, the big one was Canal Plus. But there was 4 channels, and they would have the American soap operas. Now, I've learned there's only one thing worse than an American soap opera. It's an American soap opera in French. But, you know, Sorka came to the house, and all of a sudden I realized she's watching the same shows I'm watching. You know, we started laughing about, you know, The Big Bang and Young Sheldon. I think I was 1 episode ahead of her. But, you know, it really does show you how small the world has become when we can compare TV shows and everything else.
For me, I think that it's just really important to kind of keep your mind open to other things. And I think that being able to learn about different cultures is something really important, because I feel like maybe today we all kind of focus on ourselves and maybe like what's happening on the United States, and we kind of forget about that there's other countries or what's happening in other countries. And I think it's important to learn about different cultures, learn about what's happening in their countries. And I also, since I was very little, I've always loved the French language and the French culture and anything related to France. And so that's why I really like it.
Actually, for me, I take a different language in school, so I'm like really grateful to be on the trip with Mom and Bay and to meet all the French students. And I think going to foreign countries, sometimes especially European European countries is definitely something like a lot of kids romanticize, and like that's something you can tell from our reply so far. But I think that the experience is just like, it's completely worthy of it. It's something like so remarkable that we get to experience.
So what language are you studying?
Spanish.
You know, it's funny because when I first went to Paris, my darling bride was going to learn French. Well, my first language was Portuguese and then Spanish. So things like la or le, you know, el or la. So why is a pen female? And I was like, I don't know, it is. Why is the table female? And you never understood why. There was no rhyme or reason. It's just you kind of grew up with it knowing Portuguese, and it became an automatic. And you could see her getting so frustrated, saying, this table is gender neutral. I will not accept it as a female. So, you know, I think once you know one, especially the romantic languages, the others seem to come easier. At least that's what I found. You know, and especially Spanish. Now, if you study Castilian, you'll do great until you go to Cuba, Mexico, Puerto Rico. Oh my God. The language, like in Puerto Rico when I used to go down, gets spoken at about 90 miles an hour. And there's different words because they're so Americanized. You get the words like, you know, I'm driving down a street and I see Burger King, triple carne. Wait a minute, something's not right. One way or another, this doesn't work. I know it's a triple Whopper, but when did triple become a Spanish word? Eric.
This was actually my second time going to Europe. 2 years ago, I went to Scotland with my Boy Scout troop, and I loved it. It was one of the times in my life. Excuse me. And I just heard that there was the French trip, and I was just all of a sudden on board. I just really liked the idea of being able to go to a different country and experiencing just, like you said, those little small differences.
You know, it's funny because I applaud all of you for learning a second language. Except for the Russians, Americans are the most I mean, you think about, well, the Netherlands probably the widest. Every kid grows up knowing 3 or 4 languages because they have to. But in America, too many of us know New England. You know, even going down south, all of a sudden, you're like, okay, what language are they speaking and how come I don't understand them? You know, but it's wonderful to see our kids because as you grow up, become real people and look for employment, having those extra languages just opens up a world of opportunities. Because as you can see, I mean, if Circa and I can debate the Young Sheldon episodes, the world has gotten much smaller.
For me, it was because I love studying languages. I want to be a translator or an interpreter for, well, I want to study French and Italian in college. So I wanted to be fully immersed before college. And I chose France because I had heard a lot about the people, how they were kind, and when I went over there, I saw that. They were very, very kind and welcoming, and I really enjoyed my stay in France.
So they didn't take you to Paris?
I went to Paris after I was in Dunkirk with my class.
Dunkirk, you'll learn about the real French. They're pleasant, they help you, they're wonderful. You got to Paris, it was like being in New York City. You know, it's a whole different atmosphere.
First of all, I love your language, and I was willing to discover how Americans live, and I think it's an opportunity that will happen just once in my life to go to a school in America and to exchange with Americans. And I'd like to do a job where I could speak English. That's it.
Well, and again, it will help you because many French companies that want to do business with American or British are almost speaking the same English. It's a little different, you know, but they really value people who can speak dual languages because it makes it that much easier for them to come into a new country. So you're on a good path.
Personally, I'm very happy to do this exchange because first they all are very cool.
Even Eric?
Yes. Even Eric, yes. So it's very cool to be with us all the day long. And secondly, because I would like to see how American live every day. You know, the main differences between French and American. So it's a real pleasure to be.
Well, I love travel. I did a lot of trips. In Europe, and I love speak languages. I speak English and Spanish. I love it really, and I really love to see other culture, other customers, everything like that. And I think that American is different than British, and I wanted to see the difference.
The language?
No, sorry,
Oh, the living.
Yeah, the living.
That is true.
I grew up in Asia, so I quickly learned about different cultures, and many of them were different. But I'd only seen this side of the Atlantic in movies, so when I got the opportunity to see what the American dream was in real life and if it was like movies, I knew I had to take the opportunity, and I'm not sad of that choice.
Where in Asia?
India mostly.
That would be different.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, for me, it's just a trip in America just for fun and improve my English.
That works. And last but not least?
I love travel around the world with my family or with my friends, and I found it was a good opportunity to improve my English and to see how Americans are living.
I forgot Monsieur Fish.
No, but you know, this last is difficult because all ideas have already been said. So, yeah, it's the same for me. I love, I would like everyone, I think, want to see the life of American. So what is the American dream, and it has a culture, your history, and the way of living.
So now, tell us about the program. What do the babies actually go through?
So the French babies, when they came, they got here very late on Sunday night, and so all of the American families went to the high school to pick them up. Then they got a little bit of sleep and had to go right to school on Monday morning, and they were shadowing our students in their classes. So they got to see what the American school system is like, and all the different classes that the kids take, so math class, history class, they were sitting in on them, even like the Italian class, going to a Spanish class. So it was great for them to really be with their American counterparts. Then later in the week, tomorrow they're going to Boston, so they have some field trips that they'll be going on, but a lot of the time will be spent with their host students at school.
To be fair, Monsieur Poisson, you will start. What do you find is the biggest difference between how teenagers live in Dunkirk versus Milford?
Yeah, it's difficult to answer because I would say I think that everyone here at American woken up at I would say 6 a.m. yes, and I'm opening just an hour after, so at 6 a.m. So for me it was like a first step to go, and just there is also the big differences between America and France is the size. Yes.
The size?
Yeah,
You're
the
looking
size.
at me?
No.
Am I bigger than most French people?
No, the size. Everything is bigger in your country. Yes.
And what do you find the big differences?
For me, the biggest difference is that Americans leave school at 2 p.m. because in France we'll leave school at 5 p.m. So it's very a pleasure to live in a country where we can leave earlier.
But is your lunch 45 minutes?
Oh no, we have lunch 1 hour, 1.5 hours.
Because that was the first thing that a lot of the American students said is, we had a very big lunch.
Oh, for me, it's the bigger difference is the atmosphere in class. There is a relationship with the teacher there that we have not in France. There are a distance between the teacher and the pupil in the class in France. So that's
More formal?
Yeah.
You don't find our teachers very formal?
No, because when the French kids arrived, we explained to them a regular day at our school, and we said we had recess twice a day. And they were like, that's so great and all. But my first day in America, at the end, I went to the other French kids and said, they don't need recess, the whole day is.
Well, we don't see a lot of in America, but just the size has a bigger thing, and the class something is very different, and I think a little like in movies. Yes. Yeah, that is.
Yes, as Brugard said, I thought it was stereotype, but no, our cars are very big, food big, all is bigger in France.
Well, that was the first time, I don't know if you've met my ungrateful offspring, Lexus, when we took her and her sister, and she wanted a ham and cheese, a jambon fromage. So we went, got it, and my daughter comes back, my Emily looks at, she was almost crying. I said, what's wrong? She goes, the Frenchman ate my sandwich. And I said, what do you mean he ate your sandwich? We opened it up, and it was vintage France. It was a very thin slice of ham, a very thin slice of cheese, and she's looking at it, used to, getting half a pound of meat, and she goes, I think he ate my sandwich. We ended up having to buy 3 of them and stack them together. Of course, then I had the baguette. I had to get rid of the baguette. So, for my family, I ate them. Et vous?
It's difficult to answer this question. We've been there for 2 days, but I think that everything in America is huge, and how see the high school is like in films. So it's like I thought before coming here.
I think, like Arthur said, they end at 5:30 on most days, except for Wednesday and Saturday, because they also have Saturday school. They go a half day on Wednesday, a half day Saturday morning. We don't go on Saturday at all, and since they end late, their sports go after school, and so they end even later than us. And we get out at 2:20, and our sports are over around 5:36, and we can do homework and everything. And I can only imagine, like, how long, if they have a lot of homework, how long they end up staying up to.
Are you getting used to dinner at 5 o'clock? That was the other hard thing for us when we moved to Paris. At 5 heures, we're going out to eat dinner, and all the restaurants are looking at us like, seriously? Lunch is over. Well, then after 4 years, we come back to Milford. It's dessert, it's 10 o'clock. We're ready to eat dinner. Every restaurant in Milford is closed except for one. So it was very, the timing, as you mentioned, was very hard to get used to on both sides, coming and going.
Well, for me, it was really hard to pick out like big or small differences, just because I really like to focus on how everything was so similar. But one tiny difference was Gregoire is my correspondent, and when I stayed with him, his family had yogurt for dessert. And I know it seems like very small, but every single morning I usually bring in yogurt and like to school, and I eat it for breakfast, which I just thought was very funny. But yeah, it was much easier to point out like the things that were the same because it was easier to focus on.
Actually, going off what Eric said really quickly, we had yogurt for dessert as well, like almost every night. And when I said that we usually have yogurt for breakfast, Malila's mom was like, "Oh my gosh, breakfast!" Like crazy. But I think the biggest difference, going off what Gregoire and Gaspard said, I think in America everything is like the size of everything. Everything's like consistently spread out, and in France, in Dunkirk, where we were, everything was closer together, like a small city for us, like a smaller sort of Boston, and what's outside of it is like smaller villages until the next big city.
For me, it was like the classes. I think that in France they're much more, I guess, difficult. They have like they were all saying here, like Mel had said, we're always
recess
like
all day.
Recess, yeah. Whereas in like France, when I went there, they were I don't know, just their work seemed like harder, and they were very like quiet and paying attention. Whereas here, we're always like kind of they joke around with each other, like teenagers do. But it was here, it's more kind of like a freedom where we can basically kind of do whatever we want. But that was the biggest difference that I saw.
I think for me it was kind of just the lifestyle, like overall. Like obviously there's a lot of similarities, like Eric said, but just like in general, like how old like France is compared to America. Like, I guess like America as we know it now, and it's just kind of like there we had so many old things, and it was, you could almost feel the history. And I remember like standing on that Dunkirk beach and thinking about World War II and how like there's so many people there, and I don't know, there's just so much history. And just I remember like the second day, I think me and Tongi like walked to a bakery and got a croissant, and you just don't really do things like that in America. So it was really nice to see that.
For me, I think the first thing that stood out to me was we had just like really nice dinners. Like the whole family would sit down, and we'd take like a good chunk of time to like just have like a sit down meal. And I know like people do that here too, but for like I think a lot of kids my age and like our families, like we're very busy during the week, especially around dinner time, and the whole family might not sit down together. But it was kind of like a special time, and it happened every night, and it was really nice, and it felt like a cultural difference.
I mean, I think like again, like most people have said, like the classes and just like the school in general could be this like a big difference. I also think like schedule-wise, it is like much different. For like us, we usually like have like the same classes. We know it's usually follows like in the same like schedule and whatnot. It's not as like different as it is for them. Like at least when I was there were some days where sometimes we didn't really even have like a class, or maybe just like 1 in the morning or something. Just like timing-wise, everything's like different than what we have here.
For me, it was, I didn't spend much time, like Eric, looking at the differences. I tried to look more for the similarities, but I, like Aaliyah said, I did see a lot of, like, they set apart almost 2 hours every night for dinner, and they had multiple course meals. Like, one night there was salad, and then there was soup, then there was the meal, and then there was dessert, and it's
just like we have in Milford, right?
Well, yes, but like normally, like I feel like in Milford, people don't really sit down with their families a lot, have dinner. Like I know my family, we're all busy people. We don't have a lot of time for that. We have a lot of fast food, so it was nice to kind of sit down and like have a nice home cooked meal. Like that does happen in Milford. It does happen in my life a lot, but it's like every night they're spending time together, they're talking about their days, and I think that's just something very nice.
Pascal, what do you see the big differences?
Well, I think that everything has already been said, but On the one hand, you have the American way of life. On the other hand, you have the French way of life. And I think that combining the two is something really interesting and pregnant for teenagers to discover two kinds of civilizations and countries and languages. And I think that I think it was Pope Pius XII said, the more languages you speak, the cleverer you are, and the more civilizations you discover, and the better you are. And I think such a discovery for our students is really, really interesting and important, I think, because they can draw comparisons and see that we are all human beings, but according to the place where we live, the language we speak, we have a total different way of seeing things, okay? And of course, everything is quite different. School system, well, the syllabus at school, discipline as well. But, well, on both sides you can find, well, positive points, negative points. And it is what is so interesting for them to see a reality in America as the American teenagers could see in France, to have a real point of view instead of, well, basing their point of view just on TV and what American soap operas or French movies can say.
Circa, you bring 3 different cultures into play.
I do. Being located in the north of France, we're very fortunate that our students often get the chance to travel to England, particularly to London. So for them, many of them, Anglo culture is British culture. So having the opportunity to discover America, aside from, as my colleague said, from films and books, etc., to see it in real life, it's eye-opening. It gets to confirm stereotypes, or for them to say, no, that's not really true. No, that doesn't happen. Or inversely to say, oh, as I heard many of them say already, it's like the movies. So,
Lydia, you've done this a number of times. What do you find the biggest differences?
Well, it's not that one's good, one's bad, but there's just those little things, and even talking with the teachers, they walk so much. The Europeans, French walk so much. And then for us, it's like, oh, I'll just drive over there. So from one store to the next, so I'll just take the car. Why walk?
I drive to get my mail at the end of my driveway.
So those are some of the little things that but those are the fun things to kind of notice and point out. But it's just, they enjoy life, I think, in a different way than we do. I feel like we are always go, 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 and we don't always take the time to appreciate time with family and just time to enjoy food. At lunch, we scarf down our food and we don't really think about the quality per se, but just, I don't know, maybe the quantity.
Well, the quantity certainly is much larger. You know, when you look at everything from the soft drinks.
Yeah.
If I tried to drink that much French coffee, the alkaloid level would have me having jitters. But now, you know, a few of you have mentioned schedule. Where do you find the difference at the end of a day? Now, at 2:30 we end our day, and if you're involved in after-school events, whether it's athletics or academic events, you go for a couple hours and you're home for dinner. In France, it doesn't start till 5:30. How do you find your schedule when you were there versus here?
Well, when we were there, my correspondent got out of school most days at around 5:30, with the exception of the half day Wednesday that we were there. And afterwards, a couple days, he had activities that he did. Like one day, 2 days a week, he has guitar lessons, so he goes there after school. And sometime one of them is right after school. He goes there right from school, and then one of them is at, I believe, 7 o'clock at night. So then he was he had to go home, make sure to get all of his work done, so that way he could head out for 7. And I think that was definitely a big difference that I noticed with the schedules, because they have this long school day, and then if they want to do something that they enjoy, then it just piles later and later into the day.
I mean, I know it ends at 5, and for us it's 2, but to be honest, at least for me, I think that being there, their days seem longer than ours. I feel like America can like be very rushed with like everything we do. So personally for me, I just felt like there was like more time being there. Like everything's much calmer. You take your time with things, and here like it's not like that.
Lily?
Well, for me, I noticed right away that, like at home in America, 5 o'clock in the evening would be kind of like the evening is like winding down. Like unless it's like a weekend, like a first school night, like I'm probably gonna be home for my sport. I'll have dinner and then like I'll hang out at home, and do my homework and stuff. But their school is just getting out at 5, so it's kind of like the afternoon is just beginning at 5. So I think we went and played laser tag one day, and we got out at like 7, and it felt like mid-afternoon, and it was a weird feeling.
I mean, I think just like having grown up with this kind of schedule like my whole life, I prefer it just because that's what I'm used to. But it was nice to like, I think what they said that the days did feel a lot longer there, and here it just, I think for me, I can't imagine like a day not like going home, taking a nap, and then like going out like with friends and something like that. And although they did find time to do stuff like that, I just think if I had that kind of schedule, for me it'd be harder to like find my free time to do kind of like my own thing. I feel like I don't know, it's just not as much time as I'm used to anyway, I guess.
For me, it's kind of like what Joanna said. I tend to, when I get overstressed, I just become very like anxious, and I think that, I mean, already sometimes I'll have moments where I'm like in school that I'll be like, I can't do this, and I'll have like little like moments, and just thinking about like if I were to live in France and just seeing like their schoolwork and how long their days are, I think I would be even like more stressed than I am here in the U.S.
I think that, I don't know, I feel like when we got there, we were so excited to be there that their schedules to us were like, it definitely was a longer day, and it was a lot for us to handle sometimes, especially being immersed in the language and the whole like new aspect of being with a family that like you like are so grateful of, but you don't know that well yet. And I don't know, I think we were just all very excited to be so thrown into that, but definitely was a long
And Eric, you want to go to school on Saturday, right?
Oh, no, thank you. Pas pour moi. But I really liked their schedule, like maybe not as opposed to mine, but I think that their schedule was very like fitting for their school, because they only have like academics as opposed to our school every single morning. Like for me, I go to chorus, and in chorus we stretch and like we sing, and it's kind of like a sort of like waking up and starting my day. And I think their school, like they go to class and they have like classes with their teachers, but their teachers can teach more than our classes.
We're going to run out of time, unfortunately, but let's get a couple French perspectives.
Honestly, I don't know if I would prefer to do the American system, because in France we work a lot in the weeks, but then we have more holidays, and for me it's a need to have my 2 weeks. But it's different, and I think we can say that after being like 1 month here and not 10 days.
That's true, we have more holidays, but I prefer the American system because wake up early is not a problem for me, and I feel so free when at 2 with sun I don't have class, so it's very cool. And between 2 until the end of the day, we have many times to chill or to work, so I prefer American system.
Well, unfortunately, we're running out of time, but I think you get a feeling it's a heck of a program. We're involved with the Spanish exchange students. We're now involved with the French exchange students. Every one of our children seems to take away a wonderful experience, both going to the country and then hosting families here. So, one of the gems that a lot of people don't know about is the exchange programs. Thank you for giving our kids the opportunity. And as always, thank you to our 6 loyal viewers. May tomorrow be a better day than today. May God bless. Good night.
Not too long since I've been home.